Okay, today we are going to talk about some new trigonometry. So, when the first concept that I'm going to cover is angles of rotation. So, what happens with really math is your whole life, the biggest angle you could ever have had was 180 degrees, which is a straight line. Now, I'm going to tell you that you can have any angle measurement, but it is an angle of rotation. Now, remember that the notes, like stuff that's spelled out that I do here, it is in the PDF of the notes, but the notes aren't really completed. So it just has certain definitions, information. I'm doing the stuff on the board that goes over that. So angle of rotation is any real number. How we do this is we are going to rotate a ray around an endpoint. You have an initial side and a terminal side. Initial side is where you start. Terminal side is where you end. Now, the picture of this is really saying we're talking about the coordinate plane. The initial side is always going to be the positive x-axis. So what we're going to do is we're going to rotate that ray. Now that ray can go counterclockwise or clockwise. So when do you do which thing? If your angle is positive, it's actually counterclockwise. If your angle is negative, it's clockwise. Now you have to think of what you guys know about degrees. All the way around a circle is 360. So if you're going to the counterclockwise, this would be 90 degrees. That would be 180. That would be 270. And a full would be 360. Now, if you're going negative, which is clockwise, this would be negative 90, negative 180, negative 270, negative 360. So when you're making these, you're just thinking of those, and it's not like you're getting out a protractor and making it perfect. If I said to you, draw a 240-degree angle, you would think, okay, I'm going to start here. I'm going to go counterclockwise because it's positive. That's 90, that's 180, that's 270. So you're going to stop somewhere in there. That's an approximate of a 240-degree angle. If I said draw a 500-degree angle, well, 500-degree angle is more than one full circle. So you would have to think you're starting here, you're going counterclockwise, that's 360. Another 90 would be 450. So you have 50 more, which would be somewhere in there. That's a 500-degree angle. If I asked you to do a negative 50-degree, you would think, okay, I'm starting here. It's negative, so I'm going clockwise, and I'm going to go a little bit more than halfway. So that's the first thing that you're going to be asked to do. Second thing, coterminal angles. So if angles are coterminal, they start and stop in the same place. Now, my definition says it has the same initial and terminal side, but that really means you start and stop in the same place. So the example that I say is think of a 30, a 390, and a negative 330. Well, if I drew a 30 would be there. If I drew a 390, well, I always start here. I would have to go 360 and 30 more. Started and stopped in the same place. If I did a negative 330, I would have to go clockwise and I would stop there because if I went the whole way, that's 360, I'm 30 away. So that's a negative 330. What's the same about all those? They all start there, they all end there. Now, if you look, what's the difference between them? Not necessarily that, but to get from a 30 to a 390, you add 360. To get from a 30 to a negative 330, you subtract 360. So either the sum or the difference is 360 degrees, a full circle. There are infinite. I could go around 20 times and stop 30 away. So there are infinite coterminal angles to a given angle. So what I ask you to do is I will say find a coterminal angle to negative 45 degrees. I usually will say find one positive, one negative. Well, if you're just looking at the easiest way to do it, add 360, subtract 360. If I add 360 to that, I get 315. If I subtract 360 from that, I get negative 405. If I drew that angle, and that angle, they would all start and stop in the same place. Again, what you really want to think is like that's a negative 45-degree angle. What am I doing to get back to that with another angle? I'm adding a full circle or I'm subtracting a full circle. I could do that as many times as I want. Now, be careful if it's over 360 to start. So what some people will do is they'll be like, oh, I'm going to add 360 and I'm going to get 755. Well, I would have said that's over a full circle anyway. So I'm going to subtract 360 and I'm going to get 35. If I ask you for a negative, you have to keep going until you get one. So I would have to subtract 360 again, and I'd get negative 325. But again, I could just keep subtracting, keep adding 360. Infinite coterminal angles. So that's our first lesson, and that is degrees. So what we're going to talk about tomorrow is a new way to measure angles, which is radians.